Welcome back, folks. It's time for our next 6.5 Grendel video. And this is going to be a continuation of the last video we did. And it's with the 135 grain Berger Classic Hunter. This bullet shot really well in our new Faxon barrel. Our worst group in the last video was a .782 inch group. And our best was a .451. These are 100-yard groups. So the bullet showed a whole lot of promise. And I want to continue working with the exact same powders we were working with in that video. We don't really have load data for this bullet, so we kind of made up our own in the last video. So we stayed a little bit conservative. Our velocity, we only got up to just a little over 2,200 feet per second. Today I want to push things a little bit farther. The powders are Accurate 2520 and Alliant Power Pro Varmint. And in the last video, we shot the exact same charge weight with both of them. We shot up to 28.0 grains and we didn't see any pressure signs at all. Accuracy was still looking good. So we're just going to start from there and keep going. So our next charge weight is going to be 28.2 grains. And we'll do 0.2 of a grain increments up to 29.0 grains with both powders. And we'll just see what happens. That should get us a little bit over 2,300 feet per second, which is probably all we're going to be able to ask for. Out of a 135 grain bullet and an 18-inch barrel, probably won't be able to push it much farther than that. Just like the last video, we're using Hornady brass. This is now twice fired brass. I've already sized it. It's been tumbled. It's looking nice and shiny. It's ready for primer, powder, and bullets. And with the primers, we're going to continue using what we've been using here recently, which is the CCI number 450 primers, the small rifle Magnum primers. So that's about it. Short and sweet here on the intro. Doing the same stuff as the last video, we're just going a little bit hotter. So I just need to get this stuff primed, get these charges weighed out. We're going to be on the range in no time here today. So we're sticking with the same overall length from the last video, 2.260, more or less. I love the look of these bullets in 6.5 Grendel. I mean, just look at that. Tell me that doesn't look like a butt kicker. That looks like a butt kicker. So we're definitely at a full case. Like, I'm not feeling any powder moving in the case, but it's not terribly compressed. Once I get up to the last row here with Accurate 2520, I'll double check my overall length. Make sure it's not growing on me. All right, so our last row here with Accurate 2520. Overall length doesn't seem to have stretched. There's the last one there, 2.258. I could pull out the bullet comparator and measure them to the ogive, get a little bit more precise about it, but I'm not worried about it. I think we're in good shape. So I just need to weigh out some Power Pro Varmint, seat those bullets, and we're done. So this is like the world's most boring loading session, just like the last video. So let's just get on out to the range. Maybe something interesting will happen there. Okay, folks, time to get this party started. We are shooting at 100 yards today. The dots are 3/4 of an inch. Like I mentioned earlier, I am shooting an 18-inch Faxon heavy fluted barrel. And today I've got my 4-16 by 44 Vortex Viper HST on this guy. I did shoot 6 or 7 rounds through it just a few minutes ago to get the scope zeroed. So the gun should be warmed up, ready to rock. So let's get started. First up, 28.2 grains of Accurate 2520. Ah, that last shot screwed up our group. Still pretty good. So I really like that standard deviation number of 3.1. Hopefully that trend continues. The brass looked great, so we're moving right along. 28.4 grains is next. Again, the last shot goes low and to the left. Dang it, crap. All right, the brass still looks great, so we're moving along. 28.6 grains is next. Okay, so another good group. We're getting there as far as velocity goes. This load will definitely be over 2,300. All right, another good group. Another awesome standard deviation number of 5.2. And the brass still looks fantastic. So moving right along, 28.8 grains is next. Was that the last shot curse striking again? I think it was. All right, our brass is still looking fantastic. No pressure signs to speak of, so we're moving on. Last up, 29.0 grains. All right, so the brass still looked good there on the top end. The groups and the standard deviations kind of fell apart a little bit on us, but not terrible. I've kept the barrel pretty cool here. I've been shooting pretty slow, but the suppressor could use a little cool down, so I'm going to take a break for a few minutes before we move on. I'll tell you the best thing about this is in the last video, Power Pro Varmint was the better shooting powder. Our Varmint groups were clearing away better than Accurate 2520. So my hopes are very high right now because we just saw some pretty good groups with 2520. So let's get started. First up with Varmint is 28.2 grains. All right, brass looks good. Decent start there with that group. A nice standard deviation of 5.4. It's all good, brother. Let's move on, 28.4 grains. All right, so the brass still looks good, but our velocities are climbing quite a bit faster here with Power Pro Varmint, which makes sense. It is, it's a faster powder. So we'll just have to watch ourselves. But so far so good. Next up, 28.6 grains. Well, at least it wasn't the last shot in the group that screwed up that one. Dropped that fourth shot a little bit low, but it is what it is. The brass is still looking good. We're up to 23.23. And we got another awesome standard deviation number that time. So it's all good. Next up, 28.8 grains. I'll tell you what, if we were playing the best 4 out of 5 game today, we would be killing it. But even still, these are pretty darn impressive groups if you ask me. The brass, still looking awesome. Velocity looking great. We're up to 2344. And yet another awesome standard deviation. So let's finish this guy off right. Let's shoot all of these through the same hole. 29.0 grains. Focus. Squeeze the trigger. Well, so much for that. Well, there went our string of good standard deviation numbers. 14.5 there. The brass, nothing scary, but I think I do start seeing some ejector marks here. So let's get back to the bench, take a little closer look. Okay, let's start with a look at the brass, and it's going to be an easy look because everything looks fantastic. This is our highest charge of accurate 2520. Here in the 5th row, nothing to see at all. Nice round primers, no ejector marks, no problems whatsoever. So the good news continues over to our last 5 rows, which are the Power Pro Varmint. As you can see, shooting suppressed, the case has come out super skanky and dirty. So out on the range, I thought I was seeing some ejector marks. And if there is, it's just the tiniest little hint. Nothing at all to be freaked out about. Nice round primers. No rim damage or chewed up rims that I can see. So this is good looking brass. So we've got nothing to complain about today. And honestly, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I thought we might hit some pressure, especially with Varmint. But luckily, it didn't happen. Now, before we look at today's group, let me call your attention back to the previous video. With this bullet, same powder, same gun, our worst group of the day was a 782. Now, I will say that our 3 worst groups were here at the top end, right? Some of our highest charges gave us some of the biggest groups, but still, they were pretty good. And like I said, 782 was our worst. So now let's look at the groups from today, and let's start with accurate 2520. Our best group today was the first group we shot here in 878. So our worst group in the last video was better than our best group in this video. Out on the range, I didn't think these groups were that bad, but yeah, once I started measuring them out, it's like, yeah, this is not nearly as good as I was hoping. And there's one big variable that changed. In the last video, I was shooting my 6-24 Vortex Viper PST, and this time I switched to a 4-16 HST. So maybe this scope, I don't think it's just purely the lower power scope. Like, I felt like I was holding pretty decent with the scope, but maybe something else is going on there with the scope or the mount that bumped these groups up a little bit. Because otherwise, our loading process was the same, and I can't think of anything else that would have caused problems. But a couple good things, right? We saw no pressure signs here with accurate 2520. We made it all the way up to 2,328 feet per second. And you know what? That's pretty close to, I think, where we should be. Because I was looking, the Hornady manual has got data for, their 129 grain bullets, and they top out at 2,350. So this bullet's 6 grains heavier, and we're only 25 feet per second, slower than that. I think we're probably pretty close to max. No matter what the brass is saying, I think this is about as far as we'll want to push it. Especially because it was about 20 degrees out there. And both of these powders, they're both ball powders, which ball powders are just temperature sensitive. They're more temperature sensitive than extruded powders from everything I know about powders, which isn't a whole lot. But working up a load here in the dead of winter, we don't want to push things anyway, right? We need a little bit of room just in case, next summer when it's 95 degrees, we don't get ourselves into trouble. Standard deviations were excellent. We had a couple of them creep up into double digits, but for the most part today with both powders, we saw a whole lot of 5s and 4s and 6s, and those are just great numbers. So let's move over to the Power Pro Varmint groups, and these were worse. And like I mentioned earlier out on the range, like in the last video, Power Pro Varmint was our best shooter. And here today, it was a good bit worse than Accurate 2520. So these weird flyers that we got low, you know, it seemed like one shot per group wanted to go low, and it just got worse as we went up. So I'm not sure if I had something going on with my gun. Like I mentioned, the scope or the base or something or something that's not, you know, that I'm not thinking of going on. Because they were trying to group, right? The best 4 shots in these, all of them would be good groups. So that's a little disappointing. Now, velocity was awesome. We made it up to 2350 with Power Pro Varmint. That's good stuff. And I had a couple people in the last video in the comments section run the numbers for this bullet at these sorts of velocities. And the performance is better than I even thought. Like, I went ahead and put the numbers into the Hornady ballistics calculator over on their site. And if we assume that this is a bullet that needs about 1800 feet per second to expand properly, it's staying 1800 feet per second out to 400 yards. You know, 400 yards or so, it's looking like 1800 feet per second and 1,000 foot-pounds of energy. So that's not bad at all. And even if, well, like the Hornady calculator does use the G1 ballistic coefficient. Let's say, I don't know, for some reason you'd say, oh, well, you need to use a calculator with the G7. Okay, let's say that we lose 100 yards or 50 yards. So instead of being 400 yards, it's actually 350 or 300. That's still plenty for me, for my purposes. So a nice heavy bullet for the Grendel that is shooting very well and should be effective out to 400 yards. Man, this is awesome. This is really awesome. So here's what I think I'll do in the next video with this bullet. We've shot it here in the Grendel. We've shot it in 6.5 Creedmoor. I think it's time for me to finally get off my butt and pull out the ballistics gel I've been sitting on for a couple months and try it out. I want to put some ballistics gel down at 200 yards and shoot some of these guys into it with the Grendel and the Creedmoor and see what sort of expansion we see. Because I'm thinking this might just be my my new hunting bullet for both cartridges. We've got a whole lot more options in the 6.5 Creedmoor. So I'm a little more excited for this in the Grendel, but it'll be interesting to see how much difference there is here between 2,350 feet per second out of the Grendel and, yeah, over in the Creedmoor using Reloader 26, we got all the way to 2,950 feet per second. So it'll be fascinating to see how it performs in gel with a 600 feet per second velocity differential. So that's probably our next video with the Grendel. Another one I want to get back to is the 130 grain Sierra Game King. This guy, you know, it showed some promising accuracy in the Faxon barrel back during our break-in video. So I want to try these guys out as well, because this is another good option for a hunting bullet in the Grendel, I think. So we'll play around with this guy, eventually maybe test it in some gel, you know, that whole deal. So I think that's where we'll leave this one. A little disappointed in the groups, but pretty happy about the velocities. So, all right, if you'd like to help support my channel, you can come to patreon.com/reloading. Also, check out the video description for my affiliate links if you're going shopping for reloading supplies. Clicking on one of those to get you there is a great way to support the channel without it costing you a dime. So I'll see you guys next time.